I'm excited. This is our first pros and cons.
Yeah, we've been talking about doing this for a long time, and we even tried to do it previously and failed horribly. So,
Miserably.
we're
We
back.
don't speak of that episode.
Yeah, what episode? There's no episode that happened before this. But so let's kind of just I don't know. Where did you want to start, man? You want to talk about Star Trek? You want to talk about Lower Decks first? I'm up for whatever, man.
Well, I feel like we wanted to start this series kind of with this first, I guess, the newest Star Trek series that came out this last week, Lower Decks, new animated series. Uh, Kind of playing off, I think, a more comical approach to Star Trek. I think the first animated series wasn't really meant to be comical. They were just kind of garbage bin episodes from TOS that they didn't film or whatever, so they just kind of decided to.
Yeah, the original animated series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually like the original animated series. It they did some things in it that they weren't able to do with special effects or budgets at the time, but it's definitely was set up for kids as well.
But it wasn't comedic like this show is
Yeah,
specifically comedy.
yeah, it was straight Star Trek for sure, absolutely.
And don't take my Trek card, but I've never watched it. It's on my list,
It's worth it. You gotta check
but
it
I need to find it and get on it.
out. But so how long have you been watching Star Trek, Tom?
Pretty much like most Trekkies, I'd say, or Trekkers, whatever the lingo is. Since I was a kid, started with Next Gen, and my dad watched TOS reruns,
Nice.
and then the first two shows I watched as they aired were DS9 and Voyager because they were kind of um, running at the same time, sort of. And then lately, I did finish the Star Trek chronology project, which I don't know if anyone's heard of, but it's every single Star Trek episode in chronological order by star date, not air date.
Nice.
And so you have a lot of, especially towards you get to the end of TNG, you have a lot of crossover with you're watching a TNG episode, then you hop to a couple DS9s, and then you hop to a Voyager or two, and then you go back to TNG and finish that off. But then in a lot of the Voyager DS9 episodes, you kind of alternate watching, but they all go in Stardate order. So I finished that off, and then I'm currently in a DS9 watch through again, which DS9's my favorite track for sure.
Yeah, mine too. Because it's the best track. Yeah, very similar. My mom and my aunt grew up watching the original series, and so when the Next Generation started airing, my mom would throw an episode on every once in a while, just kind of in the background, and I started watching, and quickly grew to love the series. And I really enjoyed watching Voyager and DS9. And when we got to Enterprise, I didn't appreciate as much when it originally aired as I do now. It's definitely one that I've grown to appreciate a bit more. And of course, we've got the new Treks. I'm sure we'll end up talking about those at some point. But I was kind of hopeful that with this series, we might actually be getting some more classic kind of Trek, and we'll have to discuss that. Yeah.
It's the only modern Star Trek show without a lot of lens flare.
That's a good point I didn't even think about previously.
I didn't see a single lens flare, which was kind of a first for. I mean, Discovery's blinds you with all the lens flare, and then Picard too. But it's kind of nice. It's kind of a brief respite from J.J. Abrams' lens flare for me. Well, not as harsh.
And we do have some of our favorite moments from the episode that we did enjoy, kind of sitting over here with us. And I don't know, where do you want to start with this review, man? My expectations, I don't feel were very high for this. When I initially heard it was coming from the guy who had made Rick and Morty. Honestly, the first Rick and Morty episode I ever saw, I actually really liked. When I tried to watch additional episodes, I really couldn't get into it. And so I wasn't sure how this pairing would work.
Yeah, I was interested for sure. I kind of want to see a comical take on Star Trek, and what I think Star Trek does really well when it's funny, it doesn't seem forced funny. There's they write a joke, but overall I think they don't try to make a Star Trek comedy, and this is definitely a Star Trek comedy. And we were talking earlier, but one of the things that cracks me up about one of the most recent episodes I watched was in DS9 when Wayun and Gul Dukat are sitting with Cisco in Quark's bar, and Cisco outright tries to poison Gul Dukat, and Wayun just reaches over and chugs the glass of Kanar, and Dukat basically looks at him like, "What the hell?" And you know, Wayun says something like, the Vorta have created this gene or whatever that prevents us from being poisoned. Um, it helps without, if you're a diplomat. And so I think
Negotiations, right?
Star Trek is good at writing jokes, but that's not like a haha joke, Dumb and Dumber type joke or Lower Decks type joke. It's just kind of a intelligent, funny joke. Whereas this show is definitely just trying to go out flat out comedy.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to having a flat out comedy Star Trek show either if it's funny. Um, for me, the episode when it started off, it just introduces us to the two main characters. I'm trying to think of the name, Mariner,
Yes.
and Bull something or other, Bollinger.
Yeah.
I'm gonna call him Bollinger for right now. I don't know.
We'll get him right for the next one.
As it's good enough right now.
We just watched it, so it's kind of fresh in our
heads. But it jumps us into the episode, and right off the bat, I just found the characters to be grating and annoying. And throughout the episode, there were definitely moments when I was like, oh, right on the edge. We got this one right here where they were like, grab his heart, keep pumping. And he's like, oh, my heart hurts when you pump it. I was laughing. I would like to see that kind of behind the scenes darker side of Star Trek from the lower deck perspective. And I don't really feel like we got much of that in this episode.
It's a first one, trying to feel you out, but I see where you're coming from with the character introductions weren't the best in my opinion either. However, my favorite one was the new green crew. And once again, we'll get their names for the next one. We just watched, so we're still trying to digest.
You're thinking the science officer?
Yeah,
I agree. That was my favorite character as well.
Her and the droid guy were definitely my favorites. What was his name?
Rutherford.
Rutherford, that was the one we got. So I like those two are probably my favorites. The two that they introduced first were a little goofy, and you just saw the scene where he's doing a practice captain's log in like a closet or something, and she comes in to mock him, and she has this whole box full of contraband from away missions she talks about later, pulls out a batleth and proceeds to stab him in the leg, which was actually kind of one of my funnier moments.
And visually, animated. That was a good gag.
They both look at each other and look down, look back at each other, and then scream.
I think my biggest issue with the series, at least from episode 1 of the series, I'm saying my biggest issue with the first episode here is that it's a lot of the humor comes from a place where it's not really, it doesn't feel like Star Trek. The missions, the mission kind of, I could see that happening as a Star Trek episode. I can see a lot of the elements there, but more than anything else that took me out of it is the way that the crew interact with each other, the way that the bridge crew treat the lower deck crew. I guess that's kind of the whole idea behind the series, but I would have liked to have seen the bridge crew maybe just a bit more oblivious of the lower deck crew as opposed to actively rude and mean and such.
Yeah, the comedic dialogue just kind of came down to shit talking.
That's
that's all it really was, and I think you got to have funnier moments than that. And the point about the bridge crew being kind of jerks to the lower decks kind of just goes against everything Star Trek, because anytime you see a higher ranking officer interact with a lower deck person, in any series, it's not really hostile. I mean, this just seemed kind of hostile.
I was say, what was the example you gave me from Deep Space Nine with O'Brien?
Yeah, so the Jem'Hadar, it was from the episode The Ship, and it was an ensign named Mendoza, who technically outranks O'Brien, because O'Brien's a non-commissioned officer, but
yeah.
O'Brien's still the chief engineer of Deep Space Nine. We're not going to get into like the ranking systems; it seems kind of tedious, but
not right now.
But yeah, the whole time, they're kind of treating each other with respect, even though Mendoza's a lot younger, and O'Brien is kind of talking with him about his combat experience with the Cardassians and stuff. But there's never a moment of O'Brien looking down on Mendoza for being a new crew member for Deep Space Nine, and they actually came off as friends and had a mutual respect for each other. Whereas in this, like, the captain completely treats this new ensign in this scene where she's getting him to spy on the other main character we meet.
Yeah, the other ensign, right? Oh, too many ensigns.
Because she's kind of a wild child kind of character, and we find out later that she's been demoted to ensign, so she's kind of back to the bottom when she was at the top, so she kind of has this grudge against the upper decks. But it was hostile in that the captain was asking this ensign to go spy on her and kind of tattle on what she was doing to get her in trouble, which seemed a little dumb, because I don't think that would ever happen in a real Star Trek show. I know this is animation and it's supposed to be kind of a lot different, but still, if you have the basis of Star Trek, you kind of in the Star Trek game, you still have to kind of conform to those rules, in my opinion.
Well, and I'm just thinking about it now too. Of the last three new Star Trek series we've got, two of them feature characters that are promptly or have been demoted.
Yeah.
Which I think is really the first time I've ever seen anybody in Star Trek get demoted. I don't know. Have you seen someone else take a demotion?
I'm trying to think.
Maybe an episode
well,
like
Tom Paris.
I was going to say Paris,
but that was undercover, and so I don't know if that counts, because the whole point of the episode was him being demoted to.
Yeah, that's right. You're right. They totally did it, but then it was all a fake out. Yeah. They were setting him up. Yeah.
Wasn't.
So I guess that sets precedent. There are demotions in Starfleet, I guess. Okay.
I'm sure we'll find one somewhere down the line.
I'd say, all right.
I mean, we have.
That's a pretty good example.
We've got about 740 episodes in our head to kind of roll through as we're trying to think of examples, but yeah, that kind of felt a little wrong to me. Like the all these starships, it seems like everyone's all buddies and pals and friends, and this one just seemed kind of hostile.
I imagine we'll probably hear about it, and because people are, there's conflict in this. I'm like classic Star Trek, where the crew are there to like back each other up. I don't think that you're gonna end up getting a big crew of a bunch of people that don't work well together for space travel.
And who knows? I mean, we're kind of dumping pretty hard, but it is the first episode, and we got 24 more to go. So I'm sure that we will, once it hashes itself out a bit, we'll find some themes.
What did I say earlier? Like, it started off pretty rough, like every episode of every Star Trek series ever. It's kind of true, right? I mean,
the Emissary is a good pilot.
What, for Deep Space Nine?
I love it.
It's okay, but the first season of Deep Space Nine's it's rough, Voyager, honestly.
But what about the Cage?
I would say honestly, I think Voyager probably has the strongest first season of any of the series, like
over TOS.
Well, TOS is in its own bubble, man. It's hard to compare TOS versus more up. You know what I mean? TOS is classic. They do so many things in that series that are ahead of the game 50 years ago. You know what I mean? And TOS, the seasons are very different. TOS has a completely solid first season. I'd say it's pretty. It doesn't feel like it's there. It's well put together. I'll give you that.
They only have 3 seasons really to work with.
Right.
So it had to be strong out of the gate because it's so revolutionary.
Where is like with TNG, you can not just because of the costumes, but you can almost pick the season based on the tone and the feel of the episode and everything.
So I was gonna say, being that this is pros and cons, and we've gone through a lot of cons in this episode,
Cons.
I think we should look into some pros. And one of the scenes that I thought was hilarious is actually from the intro. Which actually, if you watch the intro, there's some funny stuff because it kind of shows that this crew might actually be completely incompetent, which I think would add another level of humor. Because I think if they just make the crew just a bunch of idiots, I think I could get on board with that. But you have so in the first opening scene, there's a part with the comet, or they're like sucked into this. It looked like a red dwarf or a planet like dying, and they're sucked into the thing, and you're like, oh geez, the ship's gonna blow up, and then they zoom out, and they're like trotting along, they run into like another ice thing, and their engines fade out.
Titanic.
My favorite part, and you'll see it kind of roll through the screen here, but they come out of warp, and there's like this battle between the Romulans and the Borg going on, and they kind of sit there. I think they take a shot or two, and then they're like, yeah, we're just gonna roll. And so they just kind of fly out of the scene.
I think that's exactly what happens. I think a Borg cube like takes a pot shot at them, and then they're like, "No, time to turn around."
So I'm hoping that they. One of the things that I think would be funny is, you know, you see all of these crews are just in all the other Star Treks. They have so much valor and heroicism, and they're all courageous. I kind of want to see this crew just be kind of like a bunch of bumbling idiots. And I think that's what would make this show funny going forward.
Yeah, I'm fine with idiots. I don't like them being mean.
Right.
They can be aloof. They can be, unaware. Again, I just don't like them being mean to each other.
I agree.
What did I like?
What's a pro?
I actually really like the animation. I like seeing Star Trek animated. I like seeing the ships. I liked the chaos that they were able to do in animation of the zombie attack.
Oh man,
that was really good. There's actually a lot from the end trailers. I'll get into that in a minute. That
the Klingon guy that's up there now.
That looks like it's going to be great. I want to see their version of Klingons. I love Klingons. There's one right there. It's covered up, but the guy gets a spear in him. You know.
Yeah.
The animation is definitely a highlight for me. I actually liked it a lot. And I do. I want to see. I'm interested. I want to see more. Another pro. They have real turbo lifts. Unlike in Star Trek Discovery, where the ship apparently has like endless space, kind of like a magical bag from like Hermione Granger. And you can see I pulled a screenshot of the turbo lift because it shows it actually has walls. So I like that. I'll give them that. No, I don't know. I'm sitting here harping on this, that, and the other, and the more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm talking about, I'm like, I want to see another episode.
I definitely do. I have another small pro that I liked.
Yeah.
When the droid Rutherford, when he's kind of dating that girl, I thought that was kind of sweet. I thought their banter back and forth was kind of interesting.
Well, when she initially they were like she's like really feeling the moment, and he kind of blows her off to get into it. I was like, this guy, you know. But at the end, where it goes back to it, and he kind of gets into like, I can't believe she wasn't like interested in figuring out what's wrong with the ship.
Yeah.
I thought like including that line earlier on would have made that scene a little better, because initially it just kind of made him seem oblivious, whereas before the context that it gives you at the end of the episode is that he was so much more concerned or interested in the ship's systems.
Yeah.
So I think that gave it a little more context to that moment.
But the girl was clearly into him.
Yeah.
So he totally blew that.
I believe you called that. I think you said she looks like she's probably a Trill.
Yeah, I thought so.
The security officer, I'm pretty sure, is a Bajoran. He's got the earring and the nose ridges.
Okay.
Were there any other ones that like you noticed? I just saw there's a Bolian in there somewhere.
I think the security, the ops guy is I think they just tried to do a carbon copy of Worf, because I thought the funniest thing about him was he always wanted to like Worf, you know, always gets shut down by Picard. this guy wanted to eject a warp core, or
shoot the torpedoes.
yeah.
And see, I think when I said I think that's the Bajoran guy. He's got the nose bridges and he's got the earring. Yeah.
But I thought
which I like. I like Bajorans, man.
I thought that was funny too, kind of doing a Worf clone.
Hey, it works with the Bajorans. They've been through shit.
Yeah,
dropping the S-bomb. I let that out.
But yeah, I mean, I kind of left this episode. I'd give it a C if I were to grade it. The humor was kind of mean-spirited, but we still have 25 episodes, so I'm not giving up after one. And then you take into account that Star Trek always seems to take a while to get into, no matter what it is. So,
well, as you mentioned right there, I believe they've said 23 weeks of Star Trek, which means we have new Star Trek for the next almost 6 months, which we haven't been able to say that in a very long time. I would, I would try to go in having an open mind. I wanted to like the show, especially where they're suckling on the guy. I did not like that.
Yeah, it was disturbing.
That was gross. But I do want to see more. I just think it was probably a really bad pilot episode.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I still can't wait for this Klingon that keeps.
I know. I don't know. What do you think, man? After watching, do you want to? We'll probably end up doing groups of episodes or an episode. But the truth is, I probably will be watching this episode when it comes out weekly. Definitely. I think I will.
I'll give it a good shot.
Even if it's like, making me sour or whatever.
It's like 24 minutes. It's not that long.
I was going to say, I didn't like some of the character interactions, everything, but I feel like, it's good to have Star Trek back.
And I think once the chemistry starts to build within the characters, that hostility is going to kind of go away. And so,
or maybe you'll make more sense.
Right. So I'm optimistic. This episode.
Yeah, you gave it a C.
I give it a solid C. It's just like based on.
I mean, I give it
could be worse, could be better. Let's kind of see where we go from here.
Exactly.
More room to improve.
Definitely not bad enough for me to not watch Star Trek.
Right.
I mean, Star Trek's going to have to be really bad for me to not watch it. Let's hang that up. We'll just cut that out. But yeah, I don't know. Final thoughts? That's pretty much where it was. Yeah, I want to see more.
I think
I didn't love it, but I don't hate it.
But I was kind of thinking maybe we, since we're done with Lower Decks, maybe go over kind of what we want to do with this show.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do kind of a wrap up here. All right.
I think in terms of this show overall, not Lower Decks, but pros and cons.
Pros and cons.
Great
name, by the way. That's Tom. Tom came up with the name. We talked about doing some Star Trek discussion on my YouTube channel for a while, and we started spitballing ideas, and Tom came up with the idea of pros and cons, and I'm like, man, that's such a good idea. We've got to make our own channel.
So I mean, Star Trek has endless places for conversation. I think down the line we'll do episode reviews. We're not going to do like episode 1 of Voyager and then episode 2, but like we'll pick our
never say never.
We could do a series, but like pick and choose our favorite ones, like that we've really enjoyed in the past, favorite characters. The philosophies, weapons, ships. I mean, you can go anywhere with Star Trek.
Well, I think we're still figuring it out. We're going to be watching new Star Trek and letting you know what we think of it. Our background is definitely classic Trekkies. We both said we like Star Trek DS9 as our favorite. But just saying that, there's lots of episodes of Voyager and even Enterprise and TNG and TOS I love, there's even, I'm trying to say, there's some stuff I like from Picard and Discovery. Is there?
Let's get into that a little later.
All right.
But I was thinking too, like, if you disagree with us or agree with us, like that's your prerogative. These are our just amateur opinions, of course. Yeah, please like, comment, share it down below.
we are doing this because we want to talk Star Trek, and we basically have gotten tired of talking Star Trek with each other for years now.
But now we're gonna do it on camera.
You know, we want to, we're gonna just keep talking Trek, but we want to talk Trek with more people.
I think too, if anyone has any ideas for what something you want to talk about,
absolutely,
let us know, and we can dig into topics that maybe we didn't even think about. Because I mean, there's always something I'm pulling out.
Yeah, we'll see. We can do some ships. I say, we'll do some ship reviews, some unboxings. Right? We got
Star Trek card game.
We got a big model Orville come. We'll talk Orville.
But yeah, that was another thing with pros and cons. I would say it's predominantly Star Trek.
Yeah.
However, we're going to get into a lot of sci-fi. Star Wars, of course, is the other big one. The Orville, which is coming out soon again, which I love that show.
The Expanse.
Expanse too, which I feel like does not get as much love as it should.
The Expanse might be my favorite series right now.
And I think once the new season of The Expanse comes out, whenever it does, we might do some heavy focus.
Oh yeah, of course, man. Yeah.
It's not getting the love that I think it should, and it's honestly not only one of the best sci-fi shows on TV. I think it's one of the best, most well-produced shows on television.
Yeah.
And the books are great. I mean, it's got everything. It's got the political intrigue. It's got monsters. It's got everything.
Excitement, yeah. So please like, comment, share, subscribe. In fact, here, let's. Anything else? Ready to wrap her up?
Yeah, man, that was a great episode, and
let's do the outro. So you got to hear, we're just a couple of guys that are trekkers for fun. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. If you hit the alert bell too, you'll get notifications. We will be doing more videos more frequently, just depending on our time. We both work full time. But we love Star Trek and can't wait to talk about it and other sci-fi.
Yeah, thanks for stopping in, and live long and prosper.
Yeah, thanks for watching the first episode of Pros and Cons.